Rain was coming down sideways that night, turning Brighton Harbor into a smear of neon and brake lights, and I was just trying to keep my boy dry head down, key ready for the busted front door. I heard their boots first heavy fast, then the voice I've learned to dread. Rent's not charity, sweetheart. Bruno. I felt Jonah's little fingers dig into my collar. Mom. I put him behind me and told him, count the raindrops for me, buddy. That's when the black sedan rolled to a stop and a girl's face pressed to the window. Big eyes and a pink hair bow. Daddy, help her. The driver popped the umbrella and a tall man stepped out into the downpour like he owned the weather. Later I'd learn his name, Marcus Reed, the tech billionaire. Everyone in the city has an opinion about, but in the moment he was just a calm voice cutting through the storm. Is there a problem here? Bruno smirked. His partner, Sal, cracked his knuckles. Private matter. Marcus didn't blink. He put himself between them and me. It's raining. Let's make it public. Bruno laughed in my face. Lady O's. I told him it wasn't what I owed, it's what my dead husband's mistakes had cost me, and Bruno leaned in so close I could smell the cheap mint on his breath. Then you pay double for marrying the wrong man. Marcus, this stranger took out his wallet like he was paying for valet. How much he asked. And when Sal spit out a number that made my throat close, Marcus didn't argue, didn't grandstand, just counted it voice low enough for only us to hear. You take this. You leave the woman and her kid alone. Bruno snatched the cash, but he pointed at Marcus as he backed off. Careful who you rescue. Some people are magnets for trouble. The sedan door cracked open and the girl with the bow waved worried. Marcus glanced back. It's all right, Lil, he said then to me. Please get out of the rain. Let me buy you dinner. I hated that I needed to say yes. I hated how good the warm air felt when we stepped into Mirabella's. How easy my son laughed when Marcus's daughter Lily showed him how to fold his napkin into a swan. Across the table, I told the truth, the unpretty version. I work nights at St. Gabriel Pediatric Wing. I sleep in pieces when the neighbor can watch Jonah. My late husband Cal lost himself to bets he never won. The men outside weren't landlords. They were collectors for Leonard Voss, the kind of man people say out loud only when they want the conversation to end. Marcus listened with a face that didn't look rich, just present. That's extortion, he said. That's Tuesday, I told him. He slid his card across anyway. If they come back, call. I almost laughed. Rich people love promises, but then Jonah whispered he was hungry, and Lily passed him a breadstick like a baton, and I swallowed the pride that never pays our bills. The next day started normal, and then tilted. I got called in early because 3 nurses were out with the flu. Marcus's name lived in the corner of my mind like a light I didn't believe in, but then I turned a corner in the ER, and there he was holding Lily's hand, while a doctor checked a small fracture on her arm. He looked surprised to see me. I was in scrubs and a ponytail, the version of me nobody notices until they need a blanket. Lily showed me the purple cast and asked if Jonah liked dinosaurs. The spiky one she decided for him because he's brave. Marcus mouthed a quiet thank you when I got Lily a warm blanket and made her laugh during the X-ray. It felt almost like a decent world for 5 minutes. Then my phone rang. The voice was flat, like it was reading the weather. We have the boy. I swear the hallway narrowed. Jonah. The voice sighed. He's fine for now. $250,000 by midnight, Ms. Cole. Cash. Come alone. And tell your new friend Mr. Reed that curiosity is expensive. A muffled tremble came through the line, Mom, and then the call cut like a wire. The police took my statement, eyes sliding off mine like oil. One officer even smiled when I said Voss's name, the bored kind of smile people have when they already decided your story. Marcus watched with a stillness that made the hair on my arms stand up. Then he called someone and his jaw changed. We're not waiting, he told me. Carter's on his way. Carter turned out to be a former federal agent with a quiet voice and a team that moved like shadows. They laid out a plan money bag with a tracker earpiece I could tuck under my hair tight perimeter. No heroics. I nodded because what else do you do when the only thing you love is in the hands of men who treat love like leverage? Midnight came in wet whispers. The address was an old canning warehouse by the river, one flickering bulb over a rusted door. My heartbeat lived in my throat. I walked in with the bag like I was walking into someone else's life. Bruno smiled from the shadows. Alone like we said. Good girl. Another figure stepped forward that I didn't expect, a woman in a tailored coat, silver streaks in her hair like lightning she owned. Ms. Cole, she said, voice smooth as hotel marble. I'm Evelyn Voss. My mouth went dry. Where's my son? She gestured. Inside. You first hand me the bag. I heard Carter in my ear, steady counting breaths, and I handed it over. Jonah ran to me from a little office, cheeks sticky from someone's idea of kindness pizza, and I tucked him behind me while Evelyn studied us like an art critic. Your husband worked for my husband, she said. He took something that belongs to me before his accident. I told her Cal poured concrete, not secrets. She smiled without her eyes. He moved things in and out of buildings. You were married to a door, Ms. Cole. You just never asked what it opened. I felt the floor slip. If this is about money, it's about proof, she snapped. A ledger, a drive, insurance. He hid it. Your boy might know where. She crouched to Jonah's height pitch, turning sugar. Remember any secret spots with Daddy? I wanted to pull the sky down between them, but Carter whispered, let him talk. We need the thread. Jonah, brave like Lily said, whispered, the cabin, the fishing box, the loose board by the stove, Pine Glass Lake, our one good summer before everything broke. Evelyn's eyes gleamed like she'd won a game only she knew we were playing. We're going for a drive. They pushed us into an SUV. I watched the river slide by like a long, dark sentence, Bruno humming tunelessly, Evelyn staring ahead as if the future was already hers. You didn't know, she said after a while. It wasn't a question. I shook my head. Tears I refused to give her burning anyway. Men like ours build mazes, she said, and for a blink, she looked human. I hired a private investigator the year I learned my husband had a second phone and a third life. I'm not here because I love him. I'm here because he'll feed me to the wolves if I don't bring him a bigger meal. She turned something sharp back in her face. That meal is your husband's insurance. The cabin looked smaller than the memories. Bruno smashed the lock. Dust bloomed. Jonah led us to the stove like a little compass, and I wanted to throw my body over every plank. He pointed. There. Bruno pried up wood, and there it was. The metal box we'd told ourselves was for lures. He broke the latch, and Evelyn reached in like a magician ready to pull out a dove, and found paper photos, a cheap thumb drive, a letter in Cal's scrawl. She scanned, and her lipstick went crooked with rage. You idiot, she hissed at a ghost. You saved everything. Carter's voice in my ear got quiet. Now. Doors blew open in a rush of boots and barked orders. Hands where we can see them. Bruno reached for something he'd regret, if he ever had the chance to regret it. He didn't get it. They were face down on rotting floorboards before my breath could finish one prayer. Marcus came in last, like he'd promised himself he'd be the only soft thing I saw after the storm. He cupped Jonah's head, looked me in the eye. You're okay. I wanted to say I wasn't, not really, not yet, but my boy was warm in my arms, and the night finally had edges. Evelyn laughed as they cuffed her. You think this ends him? She asked, chin toward the box. Your city is a Jenga tower. Pull one block and see how much comes down on your heads. Carter bagged the ledger and the drive for the feds. He skipped the local boys, which told me more about our city than any headline, and by dawn the names were moving through agencies like a storm warning. Judges, cops, councilmen who never forgot to say family values into a microphone ink on a page. Cal should have lit on fire but didn't, maybe, because some part of him loved us enough to leave a fuse behind. The day after my apartment felt borrowed. Marcus made coffee that tasted expensive and wrong in my chipped mug. Lily showed Jonah how to draw a triceratops on her purple cast. And I sat on a couch like a person who had survived something, but hadn't caught up to the surviving. Witness protection is on the table, Carter said, businesslike. New names, new schools, new weather. I looked at Jonah, who had finally fallen asleep on a pile of pillows, and I imagined telling him his name was a story we weren't allowed to tell anymore. Marcus leaned on the counter, voice softer. Or you stay, and we build you something safe right here. No strings, just a start. I wanted to say yes right there, ride the easy promise into the sunset, but that's not how real life plays. Healing has chores. Scars ache when it rains. I told him one day at a time, and he nodded like he understood more about time than money. Weeks turned into a season. Voss got dragged into daylight. Evelyn cut her own throat with her bargains. The tower did wobble more than anybody guessed, and for a while the city argued with itself about whether the man who built phone screens should have put himself between a woman and two wolves. Vigilante, some said. Neighbor, others answered. People love to pick a side they never had to stand on. On Lily's 9th birthday, we grilled in Marcus's backyard like regular people. Kids chased fireflies, and he handed me lemonade, and this look that said he'd learned the art of patient joy. Jonah did a dinosaur presentation using construction paper and glue and the one loud voice he'd found again. When it got quiet and the sun slid down behind the maples, Marcus said, "There's room here, you know. If you ever—" I put a hand on his chest to stop the sentence before it scared me. I know I said, "I'm learning how to want something that doesn't hurt." Here's the part that stirs folks up in the comments, so let me give it to you straight. If a rich man hadn't stopped his car that night, would the system have helped me? I work inside that system. I push gurneys and hang fluids and hold mothers together at 3 a.m. And I still don't know. I know this. I was the kind of woman people step around, and I had to become the kind who plants her feet and says, "No more." Marcus didn't save me. He stood next to me while I saved my son. There's a difference. So tell me this, and be honest. Who do we expect to fix the streets we all walk on? Is it wrong that it took money and muscle to get my boy back? Or wrong that, without them, he might still be a bargaining chip in somebody's back room? Drop your truth in the comments. What's right? What's cowardice, dressed up as order? What have you seen? Where power bowed to justice or the other way around? If you believe doing the right thing matters even when it's messy, hit like, subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and tell me where you're watching from. Because somewhere out there tonight, it's raining and somebody's deciding whether to stop the car.